listening to the AfterBuzz TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Dean Johnson.
The AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AfterBuzz TV's The Amazing Race After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. If you'd like to buzz in on tonight's show, you can buzz us at 424-256-1729. That's 424-256-1729. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AfterBuzz TV's The
Last week.
Amazing Race After Show.
Oops. It happens. All right, you guys. Bing is for doing, and we are doing The Amazing Race After Show here at AfterBuzz TV for Season 22, Episode 6. Scorpion King Hunter. I'm your host, James Wallington, and with me tonight to recap last night's episode is
Nando Velasquez. Hey, everybody.
And Jessica is, you know,
she's on an
thing.
adventure.
Yeah, she's on her little adventure, spring break in Hawaii. I'm a little jealous, I gotta say.
I am. I wonder if it's a detour or a roadblock.
Right.
I'm trying to figure it out right now. So
it looks like she's having a good time, though. So we miss you, Jessica.
Yes.
But we're gonna get started and start recapping last night's show. So before we even talk about last night, let's talk about the buzz all over the internet about how people were so offended by last week's episode.
yeah, I thought it was interesting when they played the song in Vietnam, that big political song.
Yeah.
And they even showed the lyrics. So, and I totally understand where people are coming from for this, because I thought it was an odd choice, and at the time we were joking about it a little bit. I even read the lyrics because I thought it was funny, and I thought it was interesting that this is something that they would never have done 20 years ago. But it still is a fresh wound to some people, especially the past 10 years, just how awesome our military is, and how many people have served, and how dedicated they are, and how much they've done for us, that even something going back from the 1970s and 1960s and 70s, pardon me, the Vietnam War, there still are people that have been affected by it.
Of course.
I could see that.
I definitely agree with you. I can see it from that angle as well, and that's what a lot of people's criticism was for last week's episode. However, I'm going to play devil's advocate here and be the super fan. That is their culture, and if you're going to go on the show, you're going to experience all types of cultures, and you have to be open to whatever is going to come your way. You don't necessarily have to embrace it or feel comfortable with it, but I thought it was really cool to just see where Vietnam is with their culture to this day. And that was just my opinion on it. It's like, I, as a fan, loved watching that, because who's ever going to experience what goes on in Vietnam? Does that make sense?
No, I totally agree with you. I agree it's culture, and also it's not like we're going to ignore a country because of something that happened 40 years ago. I think we should celebrate diversity, and we should celebrate culture. And I did embrace the song in reference to that. However, I could totally understand if we went into a country that was more recent in the news, and we had a song that celebrated something from them, a very political war type song that embraced their culture and their history from back then. I could totally understand that hurting people. So that being said, I see the line, and I actually acknowledge CBS for at least admitting that maybe this was a little too sensitive.
Sure.
And I also acknowledge the fact that they went out and they took a chance on it. I'd like to see that kind of stuff. It was funny. I thought they even did it as a joke. Noticed the week before when Jessica and John got ousted, and Phil ended the show saying "Oy vey," and they had really funny music.
Yeah.
Last week the funny music was the song again. So I almost think they were just having fun. I hate to say they're having fun at the expense of those people, but at the same time, I think it was a fun idea.
And maybe producers weren't necessarily thinking when they were editing the final product, because they were probably thinking, oh, superfans want to see culture. They want to see all these different cultures that they're probably never going to experience in their lifetime. So why not show this? So I just thought it was interesting, because I've been watching all these different blogs all week long, and everybody had an opinion on it, whether it was good or bad. So now that that's out of the way, let's dive right into last night's episode. So they started off in Vietnam, where the leg from last week ended, and they were told to go to a local travel agency to figure out where the city of Mon was. If they didn't show where it was, do you think you would have guessed?
I I think I would have guessed Africa, and also because they're already traveling. They're traveling west.
Yep.
So it would have been Asia or Africa. So I think I would have predicted that, but I would have needed some help. I'm not that. Africa is not a continent I'm super familiar with as well.
Right.
So
I was super jealous because, you know, when I've gone through the application process with my mom, we always talk about where would we want to go most. And we were in the running for this season. So when I found out they were going to Africa, I was so jealous. And of course, they went to Botswana. That's where ultimately they ended up going in Africa. And I was actually really surprised that Caroline and Jennifer instantly knew that it was Africa.
Yeah.
She was like, yeah, we're going to Botswana. And I was like, wow.
No, well, they said, didn't they say Kenya at first?
I think that was Chuck and Winona.
Oh, well, no, Chuck and Winona, the hockey brothers, and I thought it was Caroline and Jennifer
Maybe.
too. Yeah, it was them because, you know, I'll tell you why. Because when they showed up and the security guard was stopping them, they said Kenya, and then Katie, because I wanted to talk about that alliance, Katie was helping them out. Katie helped them out, and then they helped the hockey brothers out. But you know what? It's it's interesting because 3 of the teams automatically were like, oh, it's got to be Kenya. They automatically thought it was Kenya. So it's really interesting what countries people think of when they think of Africa. Right. They automatically went to that.
Yeah, I feel like when I think of Africa, the ones that I think of are South Africa, Kenya, or Tanzania.
I think of Madagascar.
Oh, that too.
And Nigeria and Ethiopia as well.
Yeah,
so it's a continent I admit I'm not super. You know, you ever remember the game show Where in the World's Carmen Sandiego?
Yeah.
I know I'm dating myself right now.
Oh no, definitely.
But when they do the final challenge and people are running around with the flags and they're trying to put the countries, like Africa was always the toughest one for me, but I was really like into it because I really wanted to try and see which other one. And Egypt's another one that people don't think of, and some others. But yeah, it's always one that's really, really interesting to me. So.
I mean, I was jealous they went to Africa from the get-go. But so they ended up going to Mon, Botswana, and of course when they got there they were directed to go to the Makgadikari. I totally butchered that.
I wrote Makgadikati.
Makgadikari.
Yeah,
Makgadikari. I mean, it could be a song of some sort, which is a national park on the outskirts of the Kalahari Desert.
Yes.
Again, super jealous just seeing all the wildlife that was going on.
You know, Lion King was created there.
In Botswana?
No, I'm kidding. That's what Chuck and Winona said, that Lion King was created there.
Oh, that's right. They did say that. Well, starting off, you know, the leg was Pam and Winnie because they got first last week. And what I thought was interesting is that they were really hoping that Team YouTube wouldn't take the U-turn personally from last leg. However, it seemed like Joey went right up to them and they were just having a little powwow in the airport like nothing was wrong.
Well, first of all, I thought it's supposed to be an anonymous U-turn. So I'm really amazed that everyone found out who U-turn them, because I thought the purpose of an anonymous U-turn is you don't know and you don't really, you can hold a regret, but it's more of an assumption. I guess
maybe it's the telephone effect. Like one person tells one person and just kind of, you know, downward spirals from there.
Guess it's possible, but I still thought that was a little bit funny. But that being said, I thought it was really cool when Joey went up and said, "So what prize did you steal from us?"
Yeah.
So I thought that was a great line.
Good for him though for making light of the situation and always keeping high spirits, because sometimes the game can be stressful.
And there's no rivalry there.
No.
It's just they're right now feeling outnumbered because all the other teams they feel that all the other teams are gunning against them. But I don't think it's personal. It's just an alliance versus another alliance right now. So good for everybody. Chuck and Winona seemed a bit hurt, but good for everybody else. I think they talked it out, and good for everyone else to at least say, okay, you know what, it's part of the game.
I loved what Winona said when she approached Joey and Megan at the airport, or well, they approached them, but she said to Joey, "Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, Chuck and Winona gotta go." And that was your mindset, right? When you U-turned us, and Joey and Megan were like, "We're sorry." So after Pam and Winnie, Max and Katie left second, Mona and Beth left third, and they made a very good point that there are only 3 all-female teams still left in the race, which, you know, from previous seasons, usually an all-female team is eliminated within the first few legs, whether it has to do with the physical challenge they weren't able to complete or getting lost or something of those sorts. But I think it's amazing that this season has really 3 strong all-female teams.
I'm still a little iffy on the country singers, but the other 2 are really, really strong.
Definitely.
Pam and Winnie impressed me from the second week we started doing this. The first week I thought they were one of the weaker teams, but they keep making me eat my words.
Well, the way the editing came off too, I was like, oh, they're not going to last long.
Yeah.
Or I don't think they're very strong.
They're one of the strongest teams. I think they're one of the. I want to say they're one of the strongest female teams I have seen in recent memory.
I would definitely agree with you.
And
well, Brooke and Claire were pretty strong too, but I feel like a lot of that was luck.
Yeah, some of that was luck, and also the stronger female teams were very, very aggressive. I don't see these 2 as aggressive. They kind of are just really smooth, and they seem to have a lot of experience, and they go into half of these challenges going, "Oh, I had a job that gave me certain skills that helped me with this.
Right.
And they achieve it.
They pull from personal experience and make the task look super easy compared to everyone else.
And they're not as intimidating as other people. I think they just come across, and that's why even Joey and Megan were like, well, we can't really be that mad at you, I guess, because there's no tension there.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
So after Mona and Beth, Bates and Anthony left 4th, and Caroline and Jennifer left 5th, Joey and Megan 6th, and Chuck and Winona 7th.
3 hours behind everybody else, at least.
But of course, you know, as always in the Amazing Race, there's an equalizer, and this time on this leg happened to be everyone was on the same flight.
Yep.
So everyone started this leg on the same foot, which I always like because it really makes the leg neck and neck. And it's, you know, you never know. It's all up in the air who's going to come across the pit stop first.
It's good, but you know, sometimes I think if I was a team, it would be like, okay, we're running to get to first place, but who cares because we're going to end up being alongside first place most likely anyway, barring some major breakdown.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, the moment they ended up getting to Botswana, they had to go to, I believe, somewhere close by to the airport, another airport where they had to sign up for one of 3 flights.
It looked like they were literally across the street from each other, the way they were running out. Yeah, so I guess it's a really small city. So it was a travel agency, and they just had to do the sign up, right?
Yes. Yeah. There was 3 flights. The first 2 teams to sign up on flight number 1 were the Country Singers and the Hockey Brothers. Yeah. Of course, they were together. I'm sure they loved it and thought it was like an early honeymoon.
I have a new name for them. I have a name for that alliance.
Yeah.
I'm calling them Puck and Pucker.
Why?
Hockey pucks, hockey and pucker.
Yeah,
just a little love connection.
That
like the country girls,
like
Puck and Pucker.
Those lips. That is so funny. I like that. Puck and Pucker. Flight number 2 consisted of the Newlyweds and Team YouTube, and instantly there seemed to be a little bit of tension on that flight.
Oh yeah.
And I don't like Max very much. I think he's just such a rude person and has nothing nice to say about anybody.
Well, let's get back to Max thinking that they have a secret weapon in Katie.
Oh, right. That's right. We can't forget about that.
Yeah, because I thought that was so hilarious in the beginning when he's like, well, you know, everyone thinks I'm the brains, but really, you know, big hair, big brains over here, Katie. And she might be a doctor. I'll give her credit, but it's like they thought they were geniuses just because they figured to go to a hotel to Google the information on the city.
And they really think that keeping that a secret is a good strategy. Nobody cares. I mean, I don't think a doctor really comes into play in this race.
Well, they were so impressed by Pam and Winnie because they were as smart as they were to go to a hotel. I'm like, I'm sorry, it's called street smarts. You don't need you don't need to spend $80,000-$90,000 in a PhD to figure out to go to a hotel to look up information in a foreign country.
No, totally. And then it looked like Joey was pretty nervous on that plane. I mean, I've never been on a plane that small either, so
I've been on a couple, and I can tell you, I'm a big guy, so it's a little claustrophobic. You get used to it.
More turbulence?
I'd say a little more turbulence. I think it also depends on other countries. Kind of like drivers in other countries. Sometimes when you're in taxis, they're a little crazier. I think the same kind of goes with
a good comparison
with airplanes too.
Good point.
Because I've been traveling internationally. It's sometimes a little scary.
And then on the last flight, taking up the rear, were the Derby Moms, Team Bama, and Pam and Winnie, the BFFs.
Oh, yep.
So once they ended up getting to their destination, they instantly were thrown into a roadblock. And the roadblock clue said, "Who wants to make a new friend?" Mm-hmm. And before we continue forward, speaking about the roadblock, I would like to invite everyone who's listening or watching us on AfterBuzzTV.com live right now, go to iTunes, give us 5 stars, rate us, comment, subscribe. We want to know your thoughts. And everyone who's following us on YouTube, leaving your feedback, we love it. Jessica, Nando, and I have been all over it. We've been replying to your comments. We love the show just as much as you do. So it's really fun for us to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So continue to do that. We appreciate that. And of course, with social media these days, make sure you tell a friend because that's what Facebook and Twitter are all about. Yeah. So thank you, and we appreciate your support. Moving on to the roadblock. Who wants to make a new friend? What were your thoughts when you first heard that?
Oh, I mean, it's obvious there was a hidden clue in there.
Yeah.
I loved when some of them decided to do it and then they found out it had to do with a scorpion. Like Joey was the perfect example.
Yeah, he seems like he has a very irrational fear of scorpions, and it did not set well with him that he was going to have to end up touching it. But I would have been the same way.
I think if I was on a team, and I saw that clue, I would have volunteered to do it myself and probably freaked out just as much because, I think I have a pretty irrational fear for scorpions as well.
I mean, I feel like even with that clue, who wants to make a new friend, I feel like it would probably be something with the tribe of, you know, the Bushmen, and I would want to dive into that culture.
Exactly.
I know my mom would have loved doing it too, but oh my gosh, if my mom ended up having to do this roadblock and had to hold a scorpion, I think I would have died. I would have gotten a little bit of joy out of that. So the task of this roadblock was to dig for a scorpion with the Kalahari Bushmen in order to receive their next clue. The Bushmen actually really loved this. Looks like a pastime for them.
Oh yeah,
they knew exactly where to go, where to find them, whatever kind of dirt they had to dig. And I thought it was absolutely insane in the membrane that they had the scorpion go in their mouth.
Oh yeah, oh absolutely. How do you learn to put a scorpion in your mouth? I guess they just don't really have any fear because they've been around it their whole lives.
Yeah, that's like their environment.
I even got a kick out of the lion.
Oh yeah,
that scared the lion that scared both the Hockey Brothers team and the Bushmen with the country singers too.
Right.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. They started climbing that tree.
I thought it was when only one of them climbed it, and it was like the most it was the thinnest tree of all of them around. He's like, well, I'm just gonna climb this. You all fend for yourself. I'm gonna go to the top first. And then Caroline was all like, what are they doing? Like I just was like, oh, there's a lion over there, because that's a normal human reaction when you see a lion in the wild.
Yeah.
But anyways, I guess why he put it in his mouth. Someone made a comment. I don't remember which person did, but it was putting the scorpion to sleep.
Yeah, the way it looked to me, it almost looked like maybe they were biting the scorpion a little bit, like biting the venom out. I don't know, but I guess it's a way to put the scorpion to sleep. The only thing I could think of is their saliva or
the warmth.
Warmth or something, but it seemed to work because those things were very agitated when you finally dug and found them. You saw how agitated they were, and they had to sneak behind and grab the tail.
Yeah.
And once they put them in the mouth and took them out, they were pretty docile.
It was, really, really uncomfortable. But everyone that ended up doing this roadblock was Caroline, Bates, Max, Joey, Winona, and oh my gosh, how did I not put the other one down? Which one from Pam and Winnie did it?
It was the shorter one. I always get the two. Is that Pam? No, it's Winnie. Pam's the shorter one.
Oh my gosh.
It was Pam.
And then I believe Mona did it too.
Yes.
I get all of these people so confused because they don't really focus on just one name at a time. It's usually both names combined.
Unless it's a guy-girl team, it's sometimes when it's especially like two girls or two guys, they don't do a good job of differentiating sometimes.
That's true.
Yeah.
So they all ended up doing it, and I was really glad that Winona finally stepped up to the plate to do a roadblock, and she played it smart and did admit that at some point she was going to have to do it because Chuck had already done 5 roadblocks, and it was time for her to step up her A game and knock one of her roadblocks out of the water.
I called that last week. I said she had to do this one. So
and it was pretty simple. There was really no physicality involved. It was just getting the task over and done with.
It's still scary, though. I think I'm sure a lot of women, if they had their boyfriend, husband, a partner or whatever with them, they knew what the challenge was, I think they would not have stepped up.
No.
So yeah, and I wonder, like I said, they didn't know from the clue what it was. I wonder if Winona would have stepped up if she heard it was a scorpion.
Right.
So, but she knows she's gonna have to play that game. She's gonna have to take her chance and just take a chance and see if it's a clue is really a good clue.
Yeah.
Or if it's something really scary. So.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I also, when I was looking on the Amazing Race homepage, if you go to the actual episode, there's all these like Facebook threads of like comments that people are leaving. And a lot of people are bashing Joey and his reaction in this roadblock. And however, I think it was a very human reaction. I'm that same way with heights. I get very uncomfortable. But I gotta say, people need to stop judging. You're not on the race. You're not in these people's shoes. You don't know what it's all about.
He's playing with such emotion no matter what.
I agree.
And everything, his first reaction for everything is, yes, let's do it. To the point where I think he's talking himself into doing some of these things.
Yeah.
Because some of these things are a challenge. So I think it was just a really honest reaction to him trying to be like all for it, all gung-ho, and realize, oh my God, it's really a scorpion. I kind of understand his point of view.
And his reaction just happened to get caught on camera.
Yeah. I'm 21 years old. I don't want to die. I mean,
there are grown men who are afraid of the dark and scream at any noise they hear in the woods. Like, it's just a human reaction. We all have fears. There's no point in judging. Plain and simple. And so after the whole roadblock, they ended up going to the Detour. Mm-hmm. I thought it was funny because in order to get to the Detour, did they have to like pile into their cars, their vehicles with the Bushmen. Mm-hmm. So there's like 5 people crammed in. And I think it's so funny how Katie was complaining about how it smelled. She seemed so miserable. She just seemed like that pretentious, like East Coast, like I'm better than this.
I gotta say, Katie really was I thought she was pretty cool this episode until that point. I like that first week when she said I don't get along with people, and she has this little bit of a sour face that she put on even then, and once in a while you could see she's a bit uncomfortable and socially awkward, but she was helping out her part of her alliance today, and she seemed a lot more into it. Max seemed to be the more annoying out of the two of them. And then to be like, you guys smell, yeah, I agree. It's just very pretentious. And
Katie's villain streak seems to fluctuate. It's like sometimes you like want to like her, and then sometimes you really just don't want to like her at all. And every time she's on the screen, you want to look away because she's so obnoxious. And same with Max. They're just that team.
Well, I will say, chances are the Bushmen did smell. I mean, they're in the jungle and whatever else.
Right.
And unfortunately, the cameras decided to focus on her in that. She might not have been the only one.
You make a good point.
But she probably had the biggest reaction because she seems to be, she might have a PhD, but she did not take a class in poker face.
No.
She did not take a class in poker face at all. You can usually read what she says on her face right away.
And I love how you brought up her doctorate again, because one of the comments that I read on the thread was by a fan named Annie Bell, and she thought it was funny how Katie was complaining, and she said, anyone notice the beautiful girl with the blonde hair and the doctorate who thinks she's so smart is also the one who's lacking in wisdom to appreciate a culture different than hers.
Ooh.
And I thought that was extremely true.
That's really, really interesting. Well, I mean, sometimes when you're book smart, it doesn't mean you go out and experience things.
That's true.
You just care about what you're reading.
Well, especially for someone who does not like people and does not like connecting with people.
There are some people out there, and I'm not saying people are dumb, but there are some people out there who love to experience life.
Yeah.
And they're super friendly, and they love all people, but they might not be able to get 1,600 on their SATs, or they may not be able to pass an exam, but they have a different kind of intellect, so to say, or wisdom, a different kind of wisdom. So she just seems to be maybe a little more book smart. Maybe she studies her books too much, and that's why she's a little socially awkward.
Hey, there's a lot of factors that could come into play with that.
Yeah.
But I thought it was very interesting, so I wanted to share what Annie Bell had to say. So moving forward to the Detour, when teams arrived, there were two choices, as always, fire or fowl. Fire teams had to use 2 sticks, zebra manure, and grass to make flame to light the elder bushman's pipe. And then in fowl, they had to go hunting with the bushmen to set a trap to catch, I believe, what was called a guinea fowl that would then trigger the trap. They had to imitate a guinea fowl and set off the trap to prove that it works. So what do you think you would have done in this situation?
No doubt about it. I would have done fowl. I think 90% of the people out there would have done foul. And I'm wondering other than the fact that they were going to be using zebra dung, pretty much it's the same exact thing that people on Survivor do every single year. And you see the first episode when they're trying to do fire, and you see everybody failing miserably, and they have a team of 8 people trying to do it, and nobody can do fire. And all of a sudden, almost every single team picks fire over foul. I could understand if they had to catch an animal, because then it'd kind of be like the monkey coconut thing where you have to wait for other
animal instinct.
Exactly. I could understand if that was it, or the fishing challenge that Chuck and Winona did. But no, you just had to recreate something. You just have to build something and then put your hand in it and trigger it that it works, and that's it. It seems so obvious, and you got to say that any team that picked fire over foul, even Anthony and Bates, who actually were the only ones who achieved it, had a screw loose to not go the other direction. And that's just my thought. I'm just really, really passionate about that because I thought that was really weird.
The Hockey Bros made it seem so easy, though. And I think they thought it was funny and a little bit comedic.
Part of it probably was editing, too. But they did do it relatively fast, I guess.
That's something I'd be curious if we can get teams to come in here ever. I would love to know how long teams are really at some of these locations working on these tasks.
Yeah, I'm sure some of them are hours.
Because editing makes it seem like 2 minutes.
I was going to say that if for some reason every single team that did fire used the zebra dung, or someone said elephant. One of the contestants said elephant at some point. Maybe they just got confused.
Sure.
So because Phil said zebra, but if it worked for everybody, I wonder if on Survivor we'd start seeing people trying to either use manure to start fires or create their own to start fires.
Survivor Gabon, not to go off track here. Jillian Larson, who was she's from South Africa and she was on Survivor Gabon, actually knew to use elephant manure to start fires.
Oh, she did? I don't remember that.
And she went to go grab it, and all these people are like, what is this crazy old lady doing? But anyways.
Okay. Wow.
Funny that people should start maybe using manure to start fires.
I'm going to have to start Googling what is it about elephant or zebra dung that makes fire easier to do. I got to start Googling that.
What is in the zebra dung? Anyways, so it seemed like, some people chose to do the fire detour and then we're like, screw this, I'm over it. Let's go to do fowl. So everyone ended up doing fowl. The BFFs, Pam and Winnie, Team YouTube, the Derby Moms, the Newlyweds, the Singers, and Team Bama. And I gotta say, I was thoroughly impressed with how quick Chuck and Winona pulled this task off.
Yeah.
They seem so level-headed and bam, done, no problem.
Well, what's funny is Pam and Winnie, first of all, Pam and Winnie credited them. This is the one challenge that they said, okay, somebody knows more about this than us.
Yeah.
and I thought they were a little insulting when they said, oh yeah, Chuck's probably the kind of guy who sets a trap, brushes his teeth, and checks the trap again.
Yeah.
But then Chuck pretty much said, yeah, I didn't go to school. I just set up traps when I was a kid. So I was like, okay, I guess maybe they talk during the breaks or something. Maybe they were right on it. But Pam and Winnie still finished ahead of Chuck and Winona.
Of course.
Both those teams did that challenge incredibly fast. So you got to give credit to both of them.
And because Anthony and Bates seemed to do so well on the fire detour, they ended up getting first.
Yeah.
At the pit stop. So congratulations to them, because I don't think they've ever placed that high.
Yeah,
since
that's
the start.
That was a really good leg for them. So they
maybe
did
now
really well.
that Dave and Connor are out of the running, Bates and Anthony are going to be the new dominant male team.
I still don't think they're the smartest tools in the shed.
No.
So there are a lot of challenges that they're going to have trouble with. But this was a really good challenge between the Scorpion and between that physical action of doing the fire. It really catered to, and they had Bushmen guiding them all the way.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
So I actually want to backtrack to a comment that I think was really funny.
Sure.
That really caught my attention. I think it's hysterical that Bates and Anthony said that Caroline and Jennifer were pretty amazing, and they seem so starstruck with them, and that they're 12 out of 10s.
Puck and pucker. I'm telling you, it's puck and pucker.
I wonder if they go home and watch the editing and see what they're really like on TV.
I wonder if
they're really 12 out of 10. That's just me, though. I feel like I'm a big hater on the country singers. I'm sure they're great girls in real life, but just as a fan standpoint, they do nothing. Same with Bates and Anthony. They do nothing for me on this show. Does that mean?
It could be mean, but people mean on teams before, and people are mean on some teams. But I kind of like both of them. Like I said, it may sound like insulting that I'm saying Bates and Anthony aren't smart, but I just think that they're really good at the athletic stuff, and they're not good at some other. They don't have a PhD like Katie does. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say.
Right.
And as far as the country girls, I think they're just a fun group. I guess you got to love them or hate them. I don't think they played the ditzy girls as much as some other teams have done in past seasons.
Yeah.
I think they're middle of the road. That's what I think they are. So I can understand if people don't have a feeling for them either way, because they don't seem to do anything too dumb or smart. Is that right? Dumb or smart? They don't seem to do anything out of the box too much.
Yeah.
But the fawning with the hockey brothers can get a little annoying. I get that.
I mean, it seems to be probably a more prominent storyline now that Dave and Connor are eliminated. And if that storyline continues to blossom, I'm going to get really annoyed.
Maybe there's a love connection. Maybe something will happen.
I wonder if they're dating in real life.
Well, maybe.
Because some people come off these shows and there's like a real romance.
It's possible. Don't forget the flying squirrel that died in Caroline's
I mean, that's a real
out of
turn
loneliness.
on. That's on my checklist when I look for someone to date. If you had a flying squirrel that died, in your shirt, then awesome.
Well, out of loneliness, you just figure she needs a love connection. Maybe that's what it is.
So sorry about that. I just had to get off my little rant about Caroline and Jennifer. But okay, so Anthony and Bates got first place. Pam and Winnie got second place. Chuck and Winona got third place. And I was very impressed, as always, with Joey and Megan. I think they did really well on this leg of the race. I think since they were U-turned, like I said last week, I really wanted to see them kind of step up and have a little bit more of a competitive edge and really push themselves. And so that's why I give Joey a lot of credit with the Scorpion roadblock. And it seemed like even after the U-turn, using their optimism, they were able to turn things around this leg. What do you think?
Well, that's what you need to do. You can't let negativity get you down.
Right.
Because look what happens to Chuck and Winona last week when they let negativity get them down. You just have to keep playing. And this was one of those legs where all the competitions, the roadblocks and the detours and the pit stop were very close to each other. So it could have gone any single way.
Right.
So I give them credit. I also give credit to Chuck and Winona, because I think they were still beating themselves up at the beginning of the episode, but I think they got a little extra confidence. I think Winona got a lot of confidence from completing that Scorpion task.
Yeah.
And then it was really nice to hear Chuck at the end when they got third place. Chuck say how proud he was of her. So that's the kind of stuff you want to see. You don't want to see, you don't want to see them saying, "Oh, we're the weakest team," or Winona saying, "I'm the weakest person on this year's competition." You want to see them supporting each other. And,
I mean, if she was really the weakest, I don't think they would have made it this far in the race.
Well, you never know. There's always been some team that overperforms a bit. And
good point.
I don't think Chuck and Winona is doing that right now. I think people expect them to do somewhere in the middle. Chuck, especially because he seems to have this skill set that he can do certain challenges that other people can't do. I'm very surprised at some of the things he gets to do.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I also got to say too, what I'm really loving on the YouTube channel when people watch us after we tape this show.
Yeah.
Is that Team Hair seems to be a really big hit with a lot of our followers.
I know,
and I'm so glad that I kind of dubbed that name for Chuck and Winona. I think it sticks.
Team Hair is really good.
Team Hair.
I like Team Hair.
I do too.
Not that much running for him today.
No, and you know what? Even with Team Hair, Winona has a big head of hair too.
Yes,
like,
she does.
They just have some gnarly hair. So Joey and Megan got 4th place, and then following up with them in 5th place was Caroline and Jennifer.
You love them so much. I'm just kidding.
Eye roll. Insert eye roll here. No. In 6th place and 7th place, it looked like a really close foot race due to the editing. I would really love to know the time between these two teams. At this point, what did you think?
Well, you know what? Usually they do the whole one team finishes ahead of the other and they make it sound like someone's going to get lost or there's still a chance. So I agree with you. This was one of the few times I actually thought that maybe Mona and Beth really did get lost the way they were running around. They weren't being led by the Bushmen. They were leading the Bushmen in the wrong direction. Right. So I really thought that Max and Katie were going to get in front. So it was a nice swerve. They actually got me. They usually don't get me.
Yeah. Because
I'm usually I know, whatever. So and so is kind of lost, or oh no, they're looking for directions, but. Still, so I remember I've actually talked to some other people about that, some of the competitors in the past. I said, so how far behind really were you from the other person? Oh, we were like 2 hours behind, but the editing makes it look like a race.
They're really.
Yeah, so this one looked close though, because they both had to they both ended up changing to fowl.
Yeah,
and they both saw each other.
Yeah, they both knew that they were kind of taking up the rear.
And it didn't seem like a hard challenge the way people were finishing it in the end, other than the fact that I guess Max and Katie had trouble with it. That was the deciding factor.
Well, it ultimately boiled down to Mona and Beth getting 6th place, and I was thrilled because I love the Dirty Moms. And of course, at this point, you don't know if it's a non-elimination or not.
It sounded like you said Dirty Moms.
Dirty Moms, the Dirty Moms, Mona and Beth. No, Derby. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I kind of like the Dirty Moms because they kind of get down and dirty. They get down and dirty.
That's true, and they're tough.
They would be proud of that.
The Derby Moms.
Yeah, the Dirty Moms. The Derby
Moms. I mean, that's kind of a tongue twister, just kind of like Magadi Gadagadi Ponds National Park. And last place, Max and Katie, the newlyweds.
Yeah.
And I was really bummed, I got to admit, that it was a non-elimination leg.
Oh, you were bummed about that? Okay.
I was very bummed. I was ready for them to go home.
I know they're not one of your favorites either, so.
No, I don't know. I just, the villain thing gets old. I mean, they're fun to watch, but also you love to hate them.
I think if they're gone, I don't see much. Everyone else seems pretty nice. Joey and Megan could go either way. Because I think if they get upset again, I think they tease that they would get mean, but I think they're having too much fun, especially Joey, to really be evil. But I think it's good to have a little bit of tension, a little bit of conflict, like when they were sharing the plane ride with Joey and Megan, and Max and Kate, or even last week when Mona and Beth finished right behind them, and they gave them a look on the mat. It's just those little things. They have no poker face, so whether they're trying to play villains or not, I think it's hilarious seeing these people interact, how socially, for lack of a better word, and I know it might be insulting if they're listening, and socially inept they are when it comes to dealing with these other teams that they don't like. They just can't. They can't hide it that well.
No.
Yeah.
Definitely not. So it was a non-elimination. I'm sure a lot of people out there were just as disappointed as I was. So that kind of concludes this episode. I mean, there was a lot to talk about, but it was easy to talk about, I would have loved to know what Jessica had to say about it. But let's talk about predictions for next week.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Wonderful. So, of course, at the end of every episode, they play a little 30-second trailer, if even. Based on what you saw and based on, the last few episodes and editing and, the placements of all these teams, what do you think's going to happen next episode?
I have a confession to make.
Yeah.
I don't think I saw. I can't remember what I saw for next week.
Oh my gosh.
I actually can't remember. Oh no, I do remember now. I do remember. Okay, because I remember Chuck and Winona in that boat. I'm gonna, I hate to do. I'm gonna probably end up doing this every week till they're eliminated. But I feel like when one team member does five and the other one does 1 or 2, they're gonna get caught eventually. Where Winona's gonna have to do something that she can't achieve. And even that one, it made it sound like Chuck said he can't do what she was doing.
Yeah.
So I'm almost wondering if that was actually a roadblock and Winona had to navigate or push the boat.
Sure.
And Chuck had to be in it. So
or it could just be Chuck not wanting to do it and have her do the whole boat.
It's possible too. And of course, the producers love to make a team look like they're in trouble, a team that's somewhat weak or has some difficulty, and then of course they stay until the end. But I'm gonna say Chuck and Winona are on the bubble again, and I'm gonna say they're the ones that are gonna be out.
You think we're gonna lose Team Hair?
I think we might lose Team
Oh,
Hair.
no.
Hair's gonna get cut.
Well, you're right, though. That little segment they did show for next week, it does look like Chuck and Winona are kind of in a hot spot.
Yeah.
It does not seem like they're communicating well on this boat. She can't seem to figure out how to navigate it. So whatever that task is they have to do, I think it's going to be a setback for them. But it did show, the other part of this trailer was everyone running with donkeys. And
That's
I remember
right.
Phil saying in the voiceover, the pit stop comes down to these mules, these donkeys.
Yeah.
And I know that on one of the seasons, I want to say season 12 or 13, the first leg, they went to some sort of country where they had to walk these donkeys.
I remember that.
And one of the donkeys were completely stubborn where they couldn't move it and they ended up getting eliminated. So I am curious to know how these teams are going to tame the donkeys, but I'm going to have to say we're going to lose Team Hair as well.
Well, you know what? If I will say this, if it does come down to donkeys, and this might sound a little weird because it's Team Bama, but they seem to have a little bit more luck with more rural, more farm type stuff or animal type stuff. They might actually have some experience with animals like that.
I agree.
So
I look forward to seeing how Joey handles a donkey and
oh my God, that could be
the frustrations that might
hopefully
ensue.
He won't be as scared as a scorpion.
Right. Well, that concludes our show today, you guys. Thank you for everyone who tuned in. We hope that you continue to watch us. Again, make sure you rate and comment and subscribe on iTunes. I'm your host, James Wallington. And you can find me on Twitter, at James Wallington, WALLINGTON, and on Instagram at MrJamesWally.
And I am Nando Velasquez, and you can find me on Twitter at Nandovel, NANDOVEL.
Have a good week, everyone. We'll see you next time.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.